You only need to know me. I will be the one.
After chapter 1084, all that can be said is Imu is terrifying. Ichiro Oda has created one of the best unknown, shadowy silhouette characters in manga or anime history. Maybe that makes for a good video. The best silhouette characters in One Piece. As we see at the end of the chapter of 1084, Imu appear before us. The first words out of Imu's mouth are uttered. The name of the former queen of Alabasta, Lily. What immediately invokes a sense of terror or fear in our hearts is the frightened and shocked reaction on King Cobra's face as he is confronted by this other king, a king above him, a shadowy king of the world that should not exist. As the narrator or word bubble at the end of the chapter states, that the king of the world, Imu, displays no hesitation to sit on the throne. Or in another translation, Imu sits confidently upon the throne. Where does the source of Imu's confidence come from? As we see this man or woman, but based on their appearance as we see this being, this entity with a small body, maybe even childlike, sit upon the throne. Someone suggested that this is a seat that was made for giants in the past, for a giant man to sit on, but as I've mentioned to others, there are many human characters in One Piece or people in general in One Piece that look like giants, or at least are incredibly tall compared to others. Very tall humans, not giants, especially when standing side by side or near other humans. But I don't want to focus on Imu's identity necessarily for this video. Let's just question why it is that Imu is so frightening. I think we can take a page from something Enel said in the past, as Enel is a character many in the community have noted as being somewhat of a template or a prototype character for the eventual reveal of the King of the World. Imu and Enel are parallel characters, two gods ruling in the sky, high on from heaven, striking terror into the hearts of enemies that cannot believe they are real, ruling with the fear of their overwhelming power. Enel told us during Skypiea, people don't fear God. God itself is fear. And in chapter 275, Enel mentions that men will always kneel and beg for mercy before God when they are terrified. And so, the Gorosei kneeling before God, the King of the World, Imu, who is the very embodiment of fear itself. We have seen only a brief example of what Imu can do, what Imu is capable of, how the world fears Imu clearly more than they do an ancient weapon. Or could it be because Imu has mastery over a yet-to-be-revealed ancient weapon? Whatever that thing is that descended from the sky to destroy Luzia Kingdom, just like Enel's Arc Maxim on Skypiea wiped out an entire sky island. I and others have said before that we might have our answer as to how God Valley was destroyed, or as the world government puts it, vanished, disappeared from the maps of the world mysteriously, just like the cover-up that was initiated after the destruction of Luzia Kingdom this chapter, saying the island never existed. The ability of Imu and the world government to erase the existence of islands and people, to even erase and rewrite history, is quite terrifying. And if you do some independent research, you will find countless examples in our real world of history being incorrectly written or manipulated, I guess. For example, I saw a few article headlines recently in the news. And yes, I did not just read the headlines, for we all know Imu and the Gorosei might have manipulated those too. Just joking. But seriously, the articles that I read state that Martin Luther King Jr. never said the famous quote criticizing Malcolm X. For those of you who don't know who those are two apparently civil rights leaders in the 50s or 60s, I believe. That MLK's famous criticism of Malcolm X was apparently a fraud. It was fraudulent, forged, that it was intentionally manipulated. And another headline that said, it's time to confront how a single quotation may have changed history in error, that the victors decide what justice in history is, as Doflamingo said, as a further allusion and parallel to Imu-sama, just like Enel. That Martin Luther King never said the words that led many to distinguish one man from the other. But students in school for decades, nearly half a century, have been taught otherwise, essentially brainwashed about the truth of the civil rights era in American history. Apparently, MLK never condemned Malcolm X in the way it was portrayed. Essentially someone, either acting alone or perhaps on behalf of other forces, decided to create a conflict between these groups. which should remind you of how the world government often relies on big news morgans to tell lies to the world, or half-truths, which should also remind you of the Civil War in Alabasta, how two factions were lied to and led to fight one another despite being family. For as the article goes on to say, if Dr. King and Malcolm X were not on opposite sides of the political fence as is popularly remembered, what new insights and possibilities does that offer for contemporary America? This manipulation of history and therefore the bending of reality by the king of the world Imu, who enjoys erasing the light of truth from the world with his eyes and lies, which is similar to Luffy bending reality with his rubber god powers but in a more comedic way. This manipulation of history and therefore the bending of reality by the king of the world Imu has occurred in our real world and we don't even realize it. Not just here in America, but also in other countries or places around the world. It leads you to question everything, doesn't it? If this information blows your mind, well, it was hardly covered in the media. Something as important as rewritten history gets a few minutes, maybe in a single day, of television airtime. How many other historical facts have been rewritten or erased? Now that I think about it, looking around, is Imu-sama in the room with me now? Whatever Imu represents, though, it's in our books, our classrooms, our libraries, and our homes. Thus, the true fear, I believe, comes from not knowing what is real. For example, is the throne really empty? Therein, our lives increasingly feel like a work of fiction, don't they? But the author is not Oda trying to expose the truth. The author is a wicked king that seeks control, King Imu. This power to destroy things from afar or to truly erase history, Imu's mysterious eyes. Not much we can say further as to Imu's abilities, but what if Imu has a devil fruit ability that can create and destroy, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the creator and destroyer of all things, God, or rather, the creator and eraser of all things, Imu. An eraser then paralleling Luffy's own rubber power, for as you probably know, erasers can be made of rubber. Now to end of the video, if Imu is not Lily, and a final sword is missing before the empty throne, a sword that most likely belongs to the Nefertari family. If Imu is not Lily, and if that missing sword is the sword we see in the garden with Imu, that has cut up the pictures of those that threaten Imu's reign as king of this current world Imu likely has created. If that sword belongs to Imu, or if it is important to Imu in some way, if it is from Queen Lily even, is it not akin to the inheritance of will found in the passage of a blade? That just as Zoro inherited the Wado Ichimonji after Kuina's death, and also shared a dream with Kuina to become the world's strongest, the promise between them before Kuina died, what if Imu inherited Queen Lily's sword or keeps it as a keepsake, a memento, a national treasure of sorts? What if Imu inherited someone's will or shared their dream before they died, perhaps to change this world, which Imu has done as its king for however long he or she has reigned, and continues to do in the story with the current Great Cleansing, another erasing of the world's true history, its islands and its people. And finally, going back to the pictures on the ground of Imu's garden in the Lost or Phantom Chamber, each person on the ground might represent a great return, a figurative reincarnation or resurrection of a threat that Imu and the world government faced in the distant past. As Shirahoshi is obviously the ancient weapon Poseidon with powers capable of destroying the world and so a threat to Imu's world, Blackbeard is clearly the return of a great evil hell-bent on destroying the world, akin to Rock's Dizabek and Rock's will to become the king of the world by attacking the gods. The Nefertari family of Vivi was considered traitors, and Monkey D. Luffy is the return of Joy Boy who will bring freedom and end Imu's campaign of enslaving the world with lies and fear. An ancient weapon then, a queen with a more positive vision for the world as exemplified during Alabasta's civil war, and two pirates with the initial D, a will of D that remains mysterious, but clearly poses a grave danger to all that Imu has achieved since the Void Century. A will, and 100 years, that Imu-sama might have also erased. But as usual, we will have to wait and see. Don't forget to like the video, comment with your thoughts below, share this with your friends, and subscribe. Also click that notification bell And if you have a Twitter, feel free to give me a follow on there as well. I've been dropping some pretty hot takes lately, and I like to interact with you guys, and I do so more on Twitter than I do in the comment section, but if you leave a comment on this video too, I'll like it or maybe respond. Also, make sure to check out the second One Piece channel I made. I dropped a video that fully explains and predicts the Holy Knights based on historical and mythological clues, and I'm going to start turning your comments or theories on YouTube and Twitter into videos there soon. The second channel is on the screen, and the links to it will be in the description box and pinned in the comment section below. As always, there's more to come. Until next time.